Hey, Harry. What are you doing?
Oh, hey, John. Well, you know, Jimmy Dunne is on the show tonight, and he's the senior managing principal of Sandler O'Neill, and he's one of the most well-respected people on Wall Street. So I'm brushing up on my corporate finance here, reading an old textbook.
Listen, Harry, all you really need to know is it comes down to the time value of money. That means simply that $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And with that, you can determine a company's value using lots of sophisticated techniques. But the one I always go back to is the simplest, the discounted cash flow analysis. Hey, can I borrow this? Let me show you what I mean. I mean, you have to make some assumptions about profitability and growth, of course, but that's where the art meets the science, really. Also, where the rubber hits the road. It's also where I get frustrated with all these new businesses that generate no cash or earnings at all, and people valuing them with BS metrics like total users and such.
Wow, Johnny! I had no idea you knew so much about high finance.
Yeah, I dabble a little in the stock market. If you want, I'll explain how derivatives work over lunch.
Oh, that'd be great!
Hey, can I borrow $10? It's Taco Tuesday.
You don't even have $10, Mr. High Finance?
I got caught in a huge short position in a tech stock. Hey, don't you have a show to do?
Oh, live show? No script? What could possibly go wrong? Trip there. You see that? What's that thing? Somebody put a booby trap there. Good to see everyone. How are you? Good to see you. What a crowd. This crowd. This is a season 2 crowd. This is season 2 of Callaway Live. This is a Jimmy Dunne crowd is what this is. Am I right? You guys are here for Jimmy Dunne? I can't wait for Jimmy to go on the show. If you're like me, you're also getting the clubs out. You're getting ready for the golf season, am I right? You guys getting ready to play? I know we're here in Southern California, so we kind of play year-round, but most everybody at home are getting ready. I always go through the same 4 things every year when I'm getting ready to get ready for the golf season. Number 1, and I'm sure you guys are like me, I practice in the mirror saying, "No, honey, I've had these," whenever my wife asks me if I have new clubs. Like you. I also work on my Vern Lundquist imitation. Nate, you like me? Maybe. Ready? Yes, sir! I do that actually when I play golf. I don't get a lot of return invitations. I also box up all of my big golf shirts now that I'm, lost a little bit weight. And then I immediately unbox them knowing I'm going to need them in a few months. And then the last thing I do before every golf season is I write down and I submit all of my Grow the Game initiatives to Hack Golf. What? That's not funny anymore? All right, we'll clean that up in post-production. We've got a great show for you guys today. Don't go anywhere. Jimmy Dunne will be right here on this set when we come right back. Don't go anywhere. So you're not.
Hey, Chad, you're the head of social media, right? I have this great new product that I want to tell you about. You have a minute?
Social media? No, that's not me.
No?
That's actually going to be Johnny.
Oh.
You see that guy in the jacket right there?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, is this your first show?
Hey, you should meet us at the Hyatt later for drinks.
So, did you fly direct, or do you have a connection somewhere, or?
I mean, this booth is unbelievable. I can't believe, how did you top last year? And the tank 2 years ago?
Crazy.
Man, it's crazy. But the PGA show, it's my favorite week of the year. It's like, everybody's here, the whole thing.
Hey, Villardo.
It's so much fun.
Hey, do you know,
Charlie, nice to meet you.
Chris.
How amazing is all this? This is like the greatest thing of all time. I mean, the PGA show, I love it. It's easily my favorite week of the year.
Love what you guys are doing, man.
Hey, Chad, so good to see you.
Hey there, Tony. How's it going, man? How's Callaway Golf going for you? Yeah, going good? Everything's good?
You want to do dinner, or do you want to go out somewhere, or hang out?
Tommy, what's up, man? When'd you get in?
You want to go to the pit later?
Everything good? Wife good? Kids good? House good? Dog's good? So where are you staying? You staying here, or?
Oh, man. You guys got any freebies?
looks like you guys have a lot of momentum right now, you know. Just keep going, man. Keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. Thanks a lot for your time. I'm really excited to show you this new product that we have. Basically, imagine an app, right?
Yeah.
That swings the golf club for you.
All right, welcome back to Callaway Live. I'm Harry Arnett. And you know what the show really is all about is it's a chance for me to meet people that are sort of my heroes and people that I've admired for a long time, whether they're athletes, whether they're entertainers, obviously media. And then last season we had a bunch of people that were really important business leaders and thought leaders in their businesses. And tonight is one of those moments for me, which is a moment that I've really looked forward to in meeting and talking to somebody that's meant a lot to our game. He's the senior managing principal of Sandler O'Neill, an investment bank in New York City, and he's deeply connected to the game of golf. Please welcome to the set, Jimmy Dunne. Jimmy Dunne.
Hey,
how are you? Good to see you.
I'm great.
How are you? Have a seat.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a Telly Award there.
There you go.
Look at that. Let's throw that away.
Thank you for showing up.
Jimmy Dunne crowd right here.
That's good. That's good. I'm surprised anybody. Very nice of you to come.
I believe this is all because you got a little bit of TV time from the AT&T Pro-Am with
How about that?
Patrick Reed.
Playing with those great Callaway players, Reed and Mickelson. That was
Love
a lot
those
of fun.
guys.
I've played with Patrick the last couple of years, and obviously playing with Phil is always fun. We didn't do too bad.
Yeah, you guys were good. I saw you on 6, and then I saw you again on 11. And it seemed like everywhere I looked, I thought that they were doing us a favor because they knew you were going to be on the show.
Yeah, I think that was the whole point.
For a lot of people know you now, I bet when you were growing up within the game and then in your business career, you probably would have been way okay with nobody knowing your name, I bet, up until, a point.
Well, still am. Still am, actually. But, obviously 9/11, that changed the dynamic of a lot of things. And then on the other side, I've had a lot of very good things happen to me, too. So it's a combination of the two. But, yeah, no, we're a private company. We're still very comfortable with
under the radar.
Nobody knowing what we're doing. You
Yeah.
know? We don't want to declare things like revenues and profitability. No, we really don't.
I was doing some research for the show, and I was reviewing a lot of video that happened kind of post 9/11. A lot of people, this is how I sort of first started hearing about you, not only from your career in the investment community, but also plugged into the game of golf. That day started out just like any other day probably for you, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it was, it's sort of it's a sad, obviously the whole thing is sad, but the thing is how intertwined it was with golf. Our firm has a lot of golfers in it. Always did, always will. Although Herman Sandler was not a golfer but loved the game. Chris Quackenbush was a guy I grew up with, was my best friend, and we were tuition-paying painters together. We played golf caddy together. He was also my lawyer for when my misspent youth, and then on more corporate matters. But what was so interesting is that before I had a bet about qualifying for the mid-amateur, and so I'd worked very hard, and he just happened to walk in my office, picked up the USGA application, and said, you're playing really well. Where are you going to go? I said, well, I'll probably go to Round Hill on Monday the 10th. Because then you don't, if you play bad, it's bad, but you don't then lose Monday and Tuesday, as far as work days. And so he said, well, on the 11th, it's at Bedford. I said, yeah. And he said, you could get it under par at Bedford. I said, well, maybe. He said, you should go to Bedford on the 11th. And I said, I don't even know why. I said, okay, yeah. I said, so I picked it up, I checked it off, and I said, Debbie, I said, send this to the USGA, please. Debbie died and Chris died, and I went to Bedford on the 11th, which was I've asked his advice on everything in my whole life. I was a better golfer than he was. He was a good golfer, but it would be like the one thing I would never really ask him, let alone where to qualify, and that always sort of, but that made a difference because obviously I woke up that day. It was a cool day. I remember because it was delayed. It was a beautiful day. And I can remember, you know, the guy came out on about the 6th hole and said, you know, there's a problem. And so I was out trying to qualify for the mid-amateur. Otherwise, I'd be dead.
Yeah. And literally, most all of the colleagues that you had, obviously everyone that was in the tower that morning.
Yeah, all but 17 that were in the office died that day. And 40% of the firm perished that day. So we were on the 104th floor of the World Trade Center. So the second plane came into the 77th floor going 675 miles an hour. So 99.9% of anybody above the floor died, and 99.1%, oddly enough, everybody below the floor survived. But we were well above, so some of the people had actually gotten out. 17 had gotten out after the first plane and prior to the second plane. And several of those are still with us today.
And how, from that moment forward, at what point did you decide we're going to rebuild this firm? Did it happen instantly, or did you take some time to think about it?
Well, I was on as I said, I was on about the 6th hole, and a guy came out, a USGA guy, in a full jacket and tie, and you know the other, you know, so many different things. But that Monday afternoon, I'm terrible at directions. I'm the world's worst driver. I don't know where I'm going. I hate being lost. All right. And I was in the office with Herman Sandler, who was not a golfer and a brilliant guy, and Chris Quackenbush, who was a golfer. And we were just talking. It was about 11 noon, maybe 1 o'clock on the 10th. And Herman said, "Get out of here." You know, and Quack said, "Yeah, but you won't even find the place till tomorrow morning. You better leave now." And I said, No, I'm going to. And so Herman Sandler, like, he grabbed my arm and he said, "Look, get out of here. Whatever you do, don't call in the morning. Chris will be here. I'll be here. Everything is going to be fine. Shoot a good score and get in this, whatever this is." You know, which was the mid-amateur, which was supposed to be at San Joaquin in Fresno. And I had a bet with this guy from Oakmont that the winner got to stay at Sam Reeves' house. And that's what I worked all that long line. So anyway, I drove up there. I did get lost going up there, but eventually, you know, it was a storm and I couldn't hit any balls or anything. I stayed and was lonely feeling in that hotel room. I've been thinking, you know, I hope this was all worth it. And then I went to the golf course, and I actually got off to a very good start through 6 holes. And then he came out and said, "Look, you know," and I remember looking right at him. I said, my children and family, my wife, they said, "You're fine. They have nothing to do with this. You have to call your office." And he kind of went back and forth about calling the office. I said, "Just tell me." And he wouldn't. And so I actually hit a tee shot, and I played with the guy, oddly enough, I was qualifying with. He won the mid-amateur the following year. I think it's Austin Eaton or whatever his name was. Anyway, so after I hit that shot, I said, "Forget it, let's go." And so I went in, and you know, there was all this commotion, and I called. You couldn't get through to my office, obviously, and I called my home, and Merrill Whitmer was with my wife and said that, you know, a plane hit the World Trade Center, and you better get yourself ready that, you know, everybody in your firm is dead. And I said, "A plane? You know, what are you talking about, a plane? Like a Piper Cub? I mean, what do you mean a plane? No plane's going to hit the World Trade Center." And she said, "No, this is a real plane, like a 747. And I said, well, Chris was there. She said, yes. I said, Herman was there. She said, yes. I said, Bruce Simmons was there. She said, yes. You know, Jimmy Connor was there. She said, yes. She seemed to know this. And I remember, just like an athlete, you're on a streak, you want to stop it. I said, all right. And I was down in the bag room at the Bedford Club, and then it started to come to me. And so at that point, I was still trying to figure it out. It hadn't really dawned on me that it was terrorism. We didn't have any terrorism yet. That was the first real act within the country. And then this guy got on, and took me to this partner of mine happened to live in Bedford. I went over to his house, and I think it was Ashton Carter was on TV, and he started to talk about this guy, Osama bin Laden, and the terrorists, they want to kill as many people as they can, but the real thing that they're trying to do is have an exponential effect to scare everyone. And so if you did survive, they'd want to intimidate you so it would affect you. I remember that like it was right off the bat. And I remember thinking, well, what we'll think about whatever Osama bin Laden would think that whatever he would like us to do, we'll do the opposite. So he'd like us to run. We're not going to run. We'll rebuild the firm. We'll do what we have to do. And then, we had, 270 million Americans helping us after that, and as well as people all over the world. So we then, went to work. First, we tried to find out people that survived or not survived. I know I just later, a couple later that day, there was a fellow that had caddied for Barry Van Gerbeck, who was the president of Seminole, and he asked me to hire him as an intern because somebody had faded on this internship. His dad was the assistant caddy master at the National Golf Links, and so I had hired this kid. He came and he said that he went to Boston College. And he said, Jimmy, I know, he said, Mr. Dunne, I know you went to Notre Dame. Does being from Boston College, will that affect me negative here at Sandler O'Neill? I said, son, let me tell you something. If you had the choice to go to Notre Dame and you went to Boston College, that will haunt you your whole life. So it's well beyond Notre Dame. But anyway, he was a world-class kid, this kid, and smart as hell and really good. And he was a golfer like we all were, and his dad was the caddy master, so he was there that day. And so his dad and I were going back and forth, and I'll just never forget it. And so as I was going out to get to the train to get back to New York City, he had called me and said that they found Kevin. It was the most sensational feeling I've ever had in my life, bar none, because if they found Kevin, they could find everybody. And then so I ran the car, and then this guy's wife came out and said, Jimmy, you got to take, I'm not taking it, you got to take it. So I ran back in, and it was Mike, and he said, Jimmy, they found Kevin. It just wasn't our Kevin. Mm. And I remember thinking, God, what a man, because, other ways you could have reacted to that. But it was at that moment, that was sort of, I went from this feeling that, hey, why am I so pessimistic? Maybe everybody got out, to they found Kevin, just not our Kevin. That was when I said that, they're gone, and then we gotta be authentic, we gotta be real, we gotta tell people the truth, but we gotta be prepared for what we gotta do.
You had to be there for all of the families, all of the employees from that point going forward. Was that sort of in your nature up to that point?
Well, we all did. We all did. It was a collective. Everybody was willing to help you, and and I think this relates a little bit to golf. Because as I said, I was 11 years old, saying I was 14 in this caddy yard at Southwood Ho, and it was apparent to me that if you didn't play gin rummy or play golf, you were done, That was it. So I watched the guys play gin rummy, and I was always good with math, so I became pretty proficient at that, and then with the golf. And so then, there were a lot of different kinds of people in that caddy yard. But they had status in that caddy yard. And so I became, this guy Leroy was he always had me as his partner in gin and his partner in golf. And Leroy I wasn't there for my personality. I mean, he knew I could play better cards, and I was like 13 at the time,
Yeah.
And so, but he said, the kid is good under pressure. He's just, and so it kind of become ingrained on me that whether I was or not, I perceived myself as being very good under pressure. And, I think to some degree I am, but so when this happened, I remember thinking, everybody that ever extended themselves for me at any point, it's my turn now to demonstrate that they were not wrong in their judgment of supporting me. So whether it was Leroy Brown or Bill Saul or my father or my mother or my sister or Joe Milan, who I used to caddy for, go down the list. Whoever stuck up for me, because I'm not easy. I will I will tell you what I think. I deliver the news with no Novocaine, and so and so consequently there's always tension, and but I honestly believe that I didn't know I didn't know how it would work out, but I knew we were going to die trying, and I knew we would always try to make the right decisions. And so and then with everybody else in the world helping us, you know, that's how it all started coming about.
That was so touching to just recently go back through that and see how the community, the golf community, the investment community, your peers, your competitors, rallied around helping you and your colleagues rebuild your firm.
And no, competitors, and I remember, like, you know, through golf, I mean, I knew Jack Welch, but I didn't know Jack Welch. You know, GE owned CNBC. CNBC had got on there and they made a report that Sandler O'Neill was going out of business, which was the last thing in the world that we needed at that time. I didn't even see it. I was in a room. Ken Langone, another guy I met through golf, called me. He said, I saw the thing. I'm going to take care of it. I didn't even know what he was talking about. It came to me that they said this. Later, Jack Welch called me and said, Jimmy, I want to give me something to do. I said, well, Jack, you know, this guy, Kevin Costello, said we're going out of business. That's like the last thing in the world we need, you know. And he said, just stay right where you are. You know, 2 minutes later, Kevin Costello, or whatever, he called me, and, you know, I'm sure Jack was really nice to him when he called me. And he just, you know, and he said, look, we want to put you on the air. I said, look, I don't go on air. You know, we have in our partnership agreement, Herman Sandler said, I can make any commitment for the firm, but if I spoke to the press, I lost a half a percentage point in my partnership for every syllable. And that's actually in the partnership agreement. So, so they didn't want me in front of the camera, which I don't blame him. He was a smart guy, you know, and so that was abhorrent to me. But this guy, and then this fella Costello came down to the firm and said, you know, listen, I'm really sorry, I want to do something, and he meant it genuinely. I mean, I'm sure Jack lit him up, but I mean, but he, you know, and so he said, look, you have to go on. And I did go on. And that had a rallying cry amongst our families. And so the momentum sort of started, you know, and we had a lot of people helping us. So but this thing was interconnected with golf the whole way through. Our lives are interconnected with golf.
Yeah, they sure are. Stay right there. We're going to be right back with more Jimmy Dunne right after this.
I want to beat all my friends and the rest of the people in the world when I'm 90 years old. I think that when
you want to be the old guy going $500.
Yes, yeah. Golf,
you're never going to beat me.
Golf is the only sport where you're not even eligible to play professionally on a certain level until you're 50 years old. Yeah. You guys. Okay, that gives a guy like me hope. You know, most guys, you're 35 years old, you're not playing a professional sport ever again. I can get on the tour when I'm 50 and not a day before that age. Think about it.
I love that. That's a good goal, too. You got a little bit of time ahead of you.
Hashtag senior tour.
All right, we're back. Callaway Live. This is Jimmy Dunne. I love what you were saying before the break about how much you learned growing up into the game of golf as a caddy and then as a competitive player.
Sure.
I think I read somewhere that someone said about you that he's not a weekend golfer. He's a tournament golfer.
Oh.
Yeah, that when the bell rang, you were ready to go and are ready to go, and that you're still playing a lot of competitive golf.
Yeah, I'm trying to, you know, I was here. I was thrilled to go over to your center today, and I told the guys before we started, I said, look, boys, I really appreciate this, but I got this driver, I'm not changing. And they kind of took it as a challenge. And, man, by the end of the day, I was hitting these high hooks, which I could never hit, you know. So I'm trying to find more equipment. I've loved Phil's got me using those wedges. They've really helped my short game a lot, you know. So I'm trying to get better. I do enjoy tournament golf. Granted, it's not U.S. Amateur or anything like that. It's whatever I can play in with a pencil on me, and I enjoy it, and I'm trying to get better. And I think this equipment I got today is going to help me.
Well, that's the goal. And I told you when you came here, we're going to find some yards for you. And we thought you were the ultimate test because of what you said, that if it wasn't going to be good enough, it wasn't going to go in your bag. Well, so we knew that was going to be the challenge.
Well, I got to take my 14 friends out there. You know, I'm not that good. I need every possible advantage I can have. So, yeah, I mean, I'm real excited about this driver and the 3-wood, the irons. I knew the wedges were good. You know, I've already had them. But, you know, I've played with Reed the last couple times in the last 3 AT&T's, and so he's like, you got the wrong equipment. You got to try this. So when I came down here, I think he's right.
Yeah.
Well, he knows a lot about equipment, and he's a tough competitor.
I wish he'd speak his mind a little more.
I get on great with him. I'll tell you one thing. He's a heck of a partner.
Yeah.
I like him as a partner.
He's a guy that grinds it out until that ball's in the hole, isn't he?
Oh, and what I liked about it is he got on me. I hit a tee shot once. I laid up, and he'd come over. He said, "What are you doing? Are you playing for second and third here? We're trying to win this thing." He said, "You're not aggressive enough." I said, "Hey, Patrick, let me tell you something, all right? I've been on the planet for 58 years, all right? That's the first time anybody's ever said to me that I'm not aggressive enough." He said, but he didn't back down. He said, "You're not. You can carry it." Anyway, all the Callaway guys are good guys.
Yeah.
So
You've
Phil,
been around big personalities. I mean, you're president of big clubs with a lot of type A's in there. I mean, you know how to kind of keep everything on an even keel, right, Jimmy?
Well, yeah. I always liked that line when they asked Willie Davis about Vince Lombardi. They asked, this was in the 60s, Willie, does Coach Lombardi treat the black players different from the white players? He said, no, he treats us all like dogs. And I think that if you are at a club with a lot of type A's, there needs to be an alpha dog, and that's just the way it needs to be. And I think some of the best clubs, maybe I'm prejudiced, but some of the best clubs are run by one guy. Certainly Augusta.
Yeah, I'm glad that you haven't lost that edge, because ever since you committed to being on the show, and I don't know if you've met this guy, but our AJ Volpel, who is from New York, he's one of our only New Yorkers here, fashions himself as quite the deal maker.
Oh, great.
And so
Another one.
Yeah, so he said, hey, when Jimmy gets here, I'd love to pitch some finance ideas, some mergers and acquisitions to him. Yeah. Problem is, he knows nothing about finance. But he thinks that he's a deal maker, and he knows a lot about golf.
Yeah.
So he was hoping that he could pitch some ideas to you and just see what you think.
Let him rip.
They call me the road runner of Rutherford Road for a reason, because nobody could make a deal quicker than me, okay? So here we go.
Is that like the Wolf of
Jimmy,
Wall Street?
It is.
The road runner of
The
Rutherford
road runner.
Road.
All right, the road runner,
That would be
okay?
an awful
Nobody.
It looks a little like Leonardo.
Yeah,
All right. Listen, let's get to business, all right?
Go ahead, baby.
Time is
All right,
money.
let's see what you
Time is
got.
money. 16th hole at TPC Scottsdale. We need to buy every 16th hole of every golf course on the PGA Tour and turn it into the Waste Management 16th hole. What do you think?
I was like, would that be an acquisition?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
of course it would be an acquisition.
Leave Augusta out of it.
Leave Augusta out of it.
I think Augusta's doing fine without your help, but I don't think it would be. I like the atmosphere. I think it'd be kind of fun, ex-Augusta, ex the U.S. Open, but everywhere else you can go ahead and do
All right, well, listen, I haven't had a bad idea yet, so keep that in mind. All right, acquisition number 2.
Is that another acquisition?
You are going to love this one.
All right, Jimmy.
Acquisition. Pro Tracer. Put it in every Chrome Soft golf ball that we make. No more lost golf balls.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
No.
It's a no-brainer.
Forget
about
I had
it.
my shots on video today. Nobody under 18 should be able to witness that. I think that'll hurt your sales. You don't want to do that. Leave it to the pros.
You put some costs on this stuff when you're doing so that would be like what, like $38,000 per golf ball to put it in there?
Yes.
We'll work on that.
And,
little less.
and it would reduce sales. So what's your next idea?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys don't like printing money, then, Acquisition number 3. Shot clock, 24-second. We buy it from the NBA. We use it on tour. 24 seconds to hit your shot or a 2-stroke penalty.
I love it.
You like that one?
There you go.
Are you a fast player? You got to be a fast player.
And
Told you.
we'll
I told you.
we'll start it at Seminole right off the bat. I'm all for that. I mean, we take the golf game is crazy how long.
I think they even mentioned that on the AT&T when you were on the one of the holes. They said, "Oh, there's Jimmy Dunne. He's not taking much time over this putt."
No, I don't take much time. But what Jimmy Demerit said: if you're going to miss it quick.
All right. Last one.
Last one.
Merger.
This is a merger.
We're going to merge the tax code and the rules of golf.
Tax code and rules of golf.
We're going to make it into a children's book. So everybody could understand it.
Yeah, I like that.
Good
What do you
luck
think?
with that.
What could be more complicated?
What do you think?
I like that idea.
There's not enough trees to print out all that.
Listen, I know a couple IRS people.
Oh,
I'll put in
God.
a good word. Just don't use my name, okay, with them, all right? There may be a little
I
hostility.
like that.
there.
Election season,
Right.
people could run on a platform of making the rules simpler.
You could tell them all to talk all about it. They love talking anyway, so who
Are
cares?
you a rules guy? Do you
I'm terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm always amazed how little I actually know for how much golf I've actually played. You know,
Yeah.
and they get into decisions. I mean, I'm pretty good on the major fundamentals, but boy, when it gets like ball A hits ball B, and I'm gonna get me an official over here.
What do you think, AJ? Does he have what it takes to make
I
it
think
at
he
St.
has
Laurent?
great. I don't know about that, but I think he has.
Listen,
He has.
how do you think I afford my 1999 Dodge Stratus payments every month?
He has
We
a
make
great.
deals.
He has a
We make
presence, and he
deals.
doesn't take himself too seriously. So that's a good start.
That's passion. Those are,
Humility
Time
is a
is
good
money.
thing.
Time is money. I got to get back to it.
okay, thanks,
all right.
AJ.
Yeah.
That's AJ
Thank you.
Volpel.
Okay.
So I also we were talking before the show, and one of the things that you said, or I'm paraphrasing a little bit, you have as much passion, if not more, for the game now, playing the game, than you did 20 years ago. Where does that come from?
Yeah, you know, I tell you, I've always, you know, when I grew up, I was blessed because I had 4 sisters. I got a good family. You know, it had its issues like every Irish family has. But my father, who was a really smart guy, he was not a college guy or anything like that. He said, look, there are 3 critical things other than your faith and your health. He said, you gotta do good enough at school so you can go to the best school you can go into. You know, he didn't go to college. So that for me was Notre Dame, which was fabulous. Right? He said, you absolutely got to marry the right girl, which I'm not sure he did, but I did.
Yeah.
So that was good advice. And he said the third most important thing is you've got to get good enough at golf so you're not scared to death on the first tee. And if you do those 3 things, you're going to be all right. You know, it's amazing. It was really good advice. So, I mean, I've always, whether it was trying to win the caddy tournament or trying to win the schoolboy thing or trying to win anything, I've just really, and I think it goes back to this idea about, you know, playing. You know, he can play when it counts. You know, and I love the feeling. You know, you don't always perform, but occasionally when you do, it's exhilarating. And you know, maybe it's because I wasn't very good. But I don't feel like, I think I'm better today than when I was 35. So that shows you how lousy I was when I was 35. You know, that's the first thing. But I still feel like I have a chance. And I've always, you know, I want to try to qualify for the senior amateur, which is, you know, it's, you know, because I always felt like that 9/11, I didn't, you know, that was my good chance to get into a USGA event. And obviously that didn't happen. And then for several years after that, I didn't play any golf. But I think that would be, I'd love to get that one thing done because that would be like one thing I'd like to you know, just do.
Well, we're going to help you get there, and I'm not counting you out on that. I mean, if there's anything that we've learned from you is if you put your mind on something, bet on it.
No, we're going to try hard. I enjoy it.
Well, we really appreciate you being here,
Thank you so
Jimmy.
much. Harry.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thanks a lot.
That's Jimmy Dunne. This is Callaway Live. Next week, Lydia Ko will be here.
Oh, wow.
Make sure you watch next week. Thanks to Lydia. Morgan Pressel will be here next week as well.
Yeah,
It's our
she's great.
LPGA week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again on Callaway Live. Thank you.